Cool. Question number 2. What do you find is the most boring part of your life at the moment?
Oh, yeah, that's, I guess, doing my laundry.
Yeah. At least we get to put it outside now that the weather's getting better.
Here's China. Well, the good news is we passed that question flying colors because you didn't say the podcast you were on right now. Yes! We're taking it home. All right, question number 3. What is the most difficult choice that you have been asked to make? Getting deep.
I mean, beyond this question, actually, I'm not really sure. Yeah,
Don't be afraid to pass if you don't want to answer.
Yeah, I need to have some time to think about that, so I think I'll pass.
You'll be sat on the toilet later tonight. Let me think about that question. Deep in thought.
I do like the question itself being the most difficult thing you've been asked. I think that's I like how you tricked the question out of being asked. I think that's good. All right, Oliver. Hopefully this won't be as difficult, but I make no promises. I have no control over what the AI comes up with. All right, question number 1, Mr. Oliver. When you're by yourself, what do you usually think about?
The game. I think about the next feature I'm going to put in the game and how I'm going to do it.
You don't switch off?
No.
You're always thinking about the game?
Yeah. I'm bored of doing this.
The badass answer. Oh, follow-up question, just because I've been reading that Doom Guy book that John Romero just put out. I was curious if anybody else follows the line of thought that he used to do. Basically, when he was putting Doom together, the first one, every time they added a feature, they would play through the level with that feature, like back to front every time, just to make sure it worked. Do y'all do anything similar to that when you're testing, or you kind of add everything you want and then see how it all plays together all at once?
So we've been making the game for a long time now, so some features we can just put them in and we know they will work, but 95% of what we do, we play it many times. Like we put the feature in, play different levels, do test levels, but play testing things is at least half. Yeah. Less yes.
Yeah, makes sense. I didn't figure anybody could rigidly apply that principle that he had every single time. I was like, he just knows some things are going to work, but I bet there's other ones you're going to be like, this may seem small to add, but I bet it changes everything. If it doesn't work, we have to get rid of it fast, not waste any more time on it, that kind of thing. All right. Question number 2. If Descent was never made, what would you be doing now?
What would I be doing now? I would still be making games, I'm quite sure. I just wouldn't be making Desecrators.
Yeah.
Nice.
I got an add-on to that question coming up later on, actually.
Oh. Segue. All right, cool. We'll table that for later. Number 3. What is your favorite room in the house and why?
It is my office, which is also my living room, because that's where I am 90% of the time.
It's a good combo.
Yeah. So you both
work and leisure in the same space.
Yes.
Yeah. My office here is my bedroom. So every time what you don't see is my missus. She's on the bed next to me, sleeping, watching TV. So she'll and then I'll laugh in the background, and she'll wake up. But we work from home as well, and you do spend 90%, just like you said. You spend it like in the one room that is your office. So you got to make sure you got to go out once in a while though and do something. But yeah, well, that was our burning questions round, formerly the rapid fire round. And gentlemen, thank you very much for taking part in that. But getting back to the game now, then, Desecrators. The one thing that I think I've asked you this in the past, and I don't know if you answered it or if I've forgotten the answer to it, but flight stick support. Is this something
Yes.
that you would ever consider, or is it on the cards already?
There's already support in the game for flight stick.
Okay, because I got
Nice.
one up there, so
Yeah.
that's something that I need to test out. But
So one thing I heard is that some people for these 6-stuff games like called Hosas, where you have 2 sticks, one on each hand, and some like a throttle and a stick. And I guess you could also use stick and mouse. I'm not really sure how that will work.
Yeah, I can't picture that. I'm sure in reality, when you're trying it, it doesn't look like, you're trying to make love to an octopus. But, it probably looks like it'll work or something like that. But what about VR, though? Would you ever try VR?
Yes, we have actually changed our opinion and now are planning to support VR within 3 months. That's
3
at least
months.
the hope.
I thought that I was asking questions that you'd be like, yeah, maybe one day we'll do it. You've already got all these things planned out there. It's like you've got your whole universe or something for Desecrators that's being done.
Our original opinion was that it's... So in VR games, you have this called intensity of the experience. And Desecrators will be very intense. So we kind of had the feeling that maybe it won't be for very many people.
Yeah.
But it has been a really requested feature.
Yeah. Well,
Speaking of the universe, are there any story considerations? I know people think, oh, it's just a game where you fly around and you just kind of do the sim thing. But are there are y'all paying attention to like the world building and crafting a world around kind of the action itself?
Yeah, we have world building. We mostly use it to inform like what we put in the game in terms of location, weapons, enemies. We have our own background for why they look like how they look, or what weapons like the technology used, or the location you're at.
Yeah.
After putting them in the game, we don't really have a traditional narrative, but we do have like these stylistic consistencies, or whatever you want to call them. So if you pay attention, there is world building in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
We do want to add more explicit story into the game. That's something we want to do in future updates, because we honestly didn't have time to do too much of that. We just had to make the game itself good enough.
Yeah.
And it is this roguelike, very gameplay focused thing, so story is not the most important thing.
So are you subscribing to the old John Carmack way of thinking things, that its storyline isn't particularly important, or are you, by the end of its development, is it going to have like a big in-depth story that takes you on an odyssey somewhere?
Yeah, no, I don't entirely subscribe to that, but I feel for this game, it's not really about having a storyline that, like, we don't want to set out to tell this story with these characters and this like linear progression. We want the story to be a narrative that fits what the player is doing. So we want we want like to be able to tell stories with the events happening in a playthrough. So in my ideal world, if you played the game for an hour and you could describe your run to midnight and you could describe it as a story with like clear beats and events, that's when I feel it's really interesting, when it feels like it's telling the player story and not like some narrative you're gonna see 1,000 times because this is a roguelike. Yeah.
I actually appreciate y'all saying that, because I know a lot of indie game, and maybe just in general, I feel like people feel a pressure to put together like a really important story, and if it doesn't feel important, they have to talk it up like it is, so that people are anticipating it being, and maybe sort of reading that in, and it's not necessarily that deep. So yeah, I think it's good to kind of be upfront that it's like, we're not, if you like what story beats there are, that's fine, but we're not trying to build them up to be more than they are, Because indie boomers have a real tendency of being like, we have an incredible story and I've thought everything out, and then it's like 2 audio logs and they're like, see? And you're like, I mean, I'm sure you get a lot out of that because it's all in your head, but I'm not sure if that really translates.
It's good to concentrate on the game that you're on right now. You don't have to be like James Cameron and just write 5 Avatar movies in advance before you've even made, your first one. it's good to kind of build that world as you're going along.